Today's show is presented by Podgo. Podgo is the easiest way for you to monetize your podcast, providing podcasters with a flat rate for ad space so you always know how much you get when you include an ad from Podgo. Apply today to become a member and immediately be connected with the advertisers that fit your audience. That's Podgo at podgo.co. Podgo, that's where the pods go.
Hello and welcome to the Infectious Groove Podcast, part of the Odd Pods Media Network. Recorded at the 33 1/3 Music Appreciation Center in Speakeasy, located just outside of Detroit, Michigan. The Infectious Groove Podcast is your source for jammy jams, music news, and the best in-depth music discussion. Thanks for joining us. Now here are your hosts.
Hello. My name is Russ, and along with me, once again, located in fabulous Babyland, is Kyle and Michelle. Hello, Kyle and Michelle.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi, and hopefully our listeners are hearing Kyle and Michelle a little bit better this week. We're trying to use the magic of the internet to make this as easy as it should be. But for some reason, I don't know if it's my internet connection, my house, God, or Jesus being mad at me. Either way,
Seth.
We'll get there, all right? Just give me a minute on the Seth situation. We'll get there. But yes, it probably is Seth. Having said that, hello and welcome. And we are continuing through our fourth series, doing the best we can remote at the moment. And that is because Zoe joined the family of Kyle and Michelle. And we are all doing our best to work around. Michelle, are you, how many hours of concurrent sleep are you up to? What's your longest run at this point?
2 hours.
Oh, hey, I do know how you love your sleep. Is that making life difficult for... Let me throw that question at Kyle. Is that making life difficult for you, Kyle?
Just a little bit.
Just a tad.
How many times a day would you say I repeat myself?
Every time you talk.
Sweet. Okay, well, welcome to the show of joy and love and family and so on. And this week we are going to talk about Record Store Day, which we have a crazy recording schedule right now, but the day you hear this episode should be 2 days after the Record Store Day drop, which we'll get into a little bit later, like what even is a Record Store Day drop and how does that work and so on and so forth.
What is even a record store?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, then for the seasoned Record Store Day veteran, we're going to talk about what a Record Store Day drop is. For someone like Kyle, who has yet to experience Record Store Day in person, we're going to talk about what Record Store Day is. And then for Michelle, we're going to talk about what the record store is. So we're going to have all bases covered. It's going to be absolutely fantastic. Speaking of the record store and things you find there, our YouTube channel is still a-boomin'. If you go to YouTube and look for Infectious Groove Vinyl, you will be one of over 650 people who have chosen to make the right choice in their life and subscribe to our channel. We have new vinyl videos on Thursday and Saturday, and by the time you are hearing this episode, you will have seen that we have 2 new episodes out. One is I sat down with a buddy of mine who knows a lot more about the Beatles than I do, and we both pulled like our top 2 favorite Beatles records and favorite pressings and why we like those so much. And then the video that premiered on Saturday was one that is a heartbreaker for me. It's like albums I wish were on vinyl, just albums that for whatever reason have never received a pressing. It's kind of, I thought it'd be kind of fun for people to be like, oh, you're bummed about that? Well, this album's never got a pressing, or, or the hope is somebody goes, oh no, that got pressed, and somehow I find out about it. So seems like a fun topic. Having said that, we will move into our normal segments. This week we have a little bit of feedback. Because of our odd recording schedule, we may end up including some feedback from this episode and the following one in the next episode, but thanks to at least one dedicated listener, we have some feedback to share. And this week's feedback is brought to you by Manscaped, so let's get into it. The Olympics, professional sports ball, and concerts are all back this summer, but you know what isn't? A wild and hairy bush. Team your bush with help from our friends at Manscaped. Their 4th generation performance package includes the brand new Lawnmower 4.0. Fix your gold medals up by joining the 2 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped. Go to manscaped.com and get 20% off and free shipping with our code GROOVE, GROOVE, GROOVE. The world is starting to open, and the Performance Package 4.0 is here to help you get ready. Inside, you'll find the Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer, Crop Preserver ball deodorant, Crop Reviver toner, plus 2 free gifts. The brand new Lawnmower 4.0 is here. This 4th generation trimmer features a cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents thanks to their advanced skin-safe technology. The Lawnmower 4.0 has a 7,000 RPM motor, the ability to engage a travel lock, and a 4,000K LED spotlight for when you need a more precise shave. The package also comes with the Weed Whacker, Here to chop your worst weeds up top in both your nose and ears. After trimming, use Manscaped's liquid formulations. The Crop Preserver Ball Deodorant and Crop Reviver Ball Toner are the key to feeling victorious this year. Manscaped also threw in 2 free gifts with their Performance Package 4.0, the Manscaped Boxers and the Shed Travel Bag. Get 20% off plus free shipping with the code GROOVE at manscaped.com. That's 20% off plus free shipping with our code GROOVE at manscaped.com.
Feedback, John.
Don't worry about that. Right. There's rock and roll be without feedback.
How about that latest Manscaped ad, Michelle and Kyle? Funny as always?
Always funny.
Such a jam.
Yeah, it's. I would say out of any sponsor that we could have had, that was probably the one you were crossing your fingers most for, right, Michelle?
Yeah, I mean, not for me, for someone else.
Right. Well, I mean, once again, not to labor the point, no pun intended, but we got Zoe out of it. You know what I mean? I'm just saying, prior to the Manscaped ad, there was no Zoe, and then when we reached our partnership with Manscaped, maybe just throwing that out there.
Thanks, Manscaped.
Fantastic. So, because of our recording schedule, I haven't gathered any feedback on last week's episode yet, except for one. We had one listener who used our hotline that we always push, the 313-364-9899. And if you're a regular listener of the show, you're not going to be surprised who this voicemail is from, but you might be surprised by some of the content. One of us got in trouble this week, and it wasn't Kyle or Michelle. So here we go.
Hello, everybody. This is Seth again. I really enjoyed your episode last week, of course. I will say that I did come out swinging with a few insults because I did know that Kyle and Michelle were going to be joking on Beyonce at some point, so I was right. Also, I have seen Beyonce live, so that's why I did not include her in my lineup. I was trying to pick acts that I haven't seen before. So, I mean, I have seen Queen before, but not with Freddie Mercury, so that does not fully count. Also, Andy Wood is already dead, so the fact that we are seeing him in concert already forces you to suspend your belief in reality. Also, to say that Temple of a Dog is a tribute act, seems very degrading. They did come together because of Andy Wood, but the music is really good, and I think you may have upset some of your fans with your comments. Speaking of bands left out of the lineup, I did mean to say that on day one of Coachella that Soundgarden and Nirvana would be co-headlining that day. So, addendum, updated. And then as far as Bowie and Queen performing together, that will be written into their contract. So, they are legally obligated to perform together. All right. No insults this time. Hope you guys have a great week. Bye.
Okay, so as always, we super duper enjoy when people leave us voicemails, and we have a long running history of kind of having like a joking thing back and forth with Seth. But I do want to make clear, like, because I don't know if it was intentional or not, but Seth sounded like at least mildly offended in the middle there when he was talking about how I used the phrase tribute band to refer to Temple of the Dog. And I just want to be clear, like, I didn't mean that in a derogatory way at all. Like, I have nothing but respect for Andy Wood, which is the reason why Temple of the Dog came about. But certainly the album that they put together is amazing outside of the 2 songs that were written directly being inspired by Andy Wood. But all of the musicians that are involved in that act came together and made one hell of an album. But I still would say, like, me personally, the 2 songs that kick off the record, Say Hello to Heaven and Reach Down, are amazing songs. And for me, those just resonate more with me. So just to be clear, I didn't mean to say tribute act in any sort of derogatory way at all. That's not how I didn't mean like they're just, an Elvis impersonator playing a casino or anything like that. I meant they're very inspired. That record is an incredible tribute to who he was and the relationships that band, those people had in order to make that record. So I just wanted to clarify that. So Michelle and Kyle, you guys have been wanting for me to get in trouble with Seth. Well, you got your wish. I am.
Finally.
Yeah, I am. And I'm in, and I sounded like I was in worse shape than you guys. But having said that, so Seth also said the reason why he left Beyonce off the list was because he had seen Beyonce. And I feel what's funny is when this episode came out about our dream concerts, like nearly everybody that I know contacted me and was like, how the hell is Michael Jackson not on your list? Right. And that was my reason for that, because I saw Michael on the Bad Tour,
Right.
So let me get a ruling from Kyle and Michelle. do you accept Seth's reasoning? Or can we put this war to bed for now? The Beyonce war, can it go away for now, or how do you guys feel about it?
I will accept that as a reason because you use it as a reason as well, Russ. Even though I think both Michelle and I listed artists that we had seen previously,
right?
No.
As some sort of thing. So,
well, I would say that if she was as amazing as he says she is, then she would have made the list regardless.
Okay, so no end to the war, just to be clear. Okay.
I mean, shots fired.
Okay, real quick, I just want to point something out, and then we'll move on to our next segment. This is why you guys are in trouble with Seth a lot, and I'm not. Because Seth made a point, and I went out of my way to be like, oh, I'm sorry, I misspoke. Here's how, like, perhaps you misunderstood me. Here's how much that thing means to me. And then Michelle's whole answer was no. And Kyle is like pretty combative on the show at times, which I enjoy a great deal. He even was like, okay, well, I'll allow it. And then Michelle, clarify once more, your statement was no?
No.
Fantastic. All right. Well, hopefully this is something everybody can agree on. We'll move on to our next segment and share what we've been listening to. Our jammies. So this one is pretty unique for me. I don't think I've ever talked about this band on the show, or it was certainly not how much this particular record means to me. But there is a German industrial band called KMFDM who had been around since like the very late 80s, and still to this day are in some form or another still a big band. And they had a record come out in 1993 called Angst, which in the time since I've acquired it on vinyl, which I finally got it on vinyl about 2 weeks ago, I've played it for at least 3 or 4 people who have never heard this album, but they've heard a lot of music that was inspired by it way later in the 90s. And it was funny because like 3 total strangers who have heard this album in the past week, all 3 were like, oh, so Rob Zombie owes his entire career to this album? You know, or like, but names came out like Marilyn Manson, 9 Inch Nails. Not even Rob Zombie was the one that like everybody agreed. Okay, so Rob Zombie just took what they were doing here and made a whole career out of it. But everybody else was like, well, I know for sure Trent Reznor's heard this album, or I know for sure Marilyn Manson was influenced by this. And it's just a fantastic, like really good political album. Unfortunately, almost all of the political themes on it in 1993 are as relevant today or more so than they were then. A lot of talk about privacy and mob mentality and how much the government and the media are in control of everything. But it's very, very, very guitar driven. If I was to call it one thing, I would say guitar driven dance music. That's like the only way that I can describe it. Actually, let me give it a better descriptor. Michelle, you would hate it. Yeah, that's a good way to describe it, I think. Kyle, I honest to God think you would like this record. And when we put together the playlist, I'm probably about half of this record is going to end up on the playlist. Again, the album was called Angst. It's from 1993. It's KMFDM's album. Before this, they were almost no guitars. It was all very electronica and dance. And then in this album, they really went heavy on the metal guitars, and then to varying degrees over the years. For me personally, I feel like this is the album where KMFDM got everything exactly right. Every song on it is just killer. But it's been my jammy jam because it is one of those albums that would have qualified for albums I wish that were on vinyl, because it's never been pressed on vinyl, which is insane. And they just recently put it on vinyl for the very first time and only released 1,000 copies. And I was like, no, I'm getting that no matter what. Because that's been like a wish list album for ages. So I got it, and it sounds every bit as good or better than I'd hoped it would. And every person that I've played it for has been like, holy crap, how have I never heard this album? Like, this is amazing. You know, that really has been where I've been at with my jammy jams. Kyle, you always bring the diversity. So what kind of stuff have you been listening to?
It's actually not that much diversity this week, but
that's like the third time in the history of the show that I've set you up and been like, Kyle, you bring the diversity, and then like all 3 times you've been like, not so much this week. I'm like, sweet.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it is diverse all within like the one genre, which is just it's all rap this week. Tyler, the Creator, put out a new album recently called "Call Me If You Get Lost." I'm not a huge Tyler, the Creator fan, really. Like I like some of his stuff because of how like creative and like offbeat it is.
So it's not just a clever name.
Huh?
I was doing the Wayne's World joke. So it's not just a clever name. The shitty Beatles, are they any good? They suck. Well, then it's not just a clever name. Anyways, I'm sorry. So go on.
He performed at the BET Awards recently, and I watched that, and I was like, oh man, like the way he did it and everything that he did, like you could just see that like he made his particular like vision come to life, and he wasn't just gonna like stand up there and rap a song with some girl shaking her ass or something. It was just very creative. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna check out his new album. So I did that, and it's everything that I was expecting it to be, which is just more of what he does. He's just super creative and kind of oddball stuff, but
that's good. So not an album that would like fully convert you to being like a full-time fan, but a welcome change for you from what he's done before.
Yeah, it's still, like he put out Igor in 2019, and that was different than I would say this new album is, and that which is good. He is just exploring and doing different things, and he actually, it's kind of set up like a mixtape almost. So he has DJ Drama on it a lot, and it like in between songs, you hear DJ Drama, and he does like his drops for when he used to do mixtapes on the album. So it's kind of like, I don't know, it's weird.
But like you said though, and again, pun on the name creator, but it's nice to hear something creative and different. It's, and especially with the live aspect too.
Yeah, and the live thing is what put me. I was like, damn, I really want to check this out. So I did, and I was pleasantly surprised.
Right on, sweet. Was that mostly what you've been listening to, or anything else?
Most of that, but I also I don't know what. Oh, I was listening to that album, and then it autoplayed to Kid Cudi's "Man on the Moon 3." The Chosen, which is his newest album as well.
So
I previously listened to it, but damn, that is a fantastic album.
Worth revisiting.
Especially since he hadn't put out a full album before that, in like 10 years or something like that. So
yeah, that record has been on your Jamie Jams before, no?
Yep.
Okay, yeah, and we talked about that, where it had been a while. We talked about two things. We talked about, one, how it had been a while since he put out music, and we talked about how Michelle didn't know how to pronounce his name.
It's Kid Cutie.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Michelle, who is it?
Kid Cutie.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, so, I think the thing that he put out most recent before that was like a 6-song, or maybe not, I don't know. It was in 2016, but then the major album that he had put out was from 2009. So it had been a long time since he put anything out.
Yeah, for sure. And again, as a Guns N' Roses fan, I don't know what that's like for artists to take a while between records, so I wouldn't have any idea what you're dealing with on that. So, Michelle, it sounds to me like Kyle just kind of ripped off your Jamie Jams this week. Those sound exactly like things you would be listening to, but why don't you go ahead and share whatever it is that's crossing your mind this week?
When I was looking for a record to review, it was between Kings of Leon or Jen Wigmore, so I've been listening to some Jen Wigmore this week.
I have not heard near as much of her as I should. If I was going to go blind buy one of her records, which one, and I know you're not prepared for this question, but off the top of your head, which one would you tell me, okay, go buy this one?
Well, she should be on our YouTube channel about artists who don't have any of their stuff pressed on vinyl, because to my knowledge, she doesn't.
Well, I know you've never been before, but at the record store, they also sell compact discs. So I could buy one of those. It's like a record. You know what? We'll do a whole episode where we explain to you other medium. But anyway, so just if I was going to go buy an album, is there one that you think I should pick up, or how many does she even have? Do you know?
I think she only has probably like 4 or 5. Let's see. She has 1, 2, 3, 4. She's got some stuff that's been coming out this year, so I'm assuming she's working on her 5th album. But I would recommend Gravel and Wine, which came out in 2011. It's her 2nd album, but I feel like it's got all the stuff that you will have known from her, like all the stuff that's in commercials and on TV, and it's just an all-around good record.
It's the fun some nights of her catalog,
yes.
where if every song that starts, you'll be like, that was in that commercial.
Exactly.
Right on.
But all of her stuff is good. There's not one album that she has that I don't like. So.
And if you were going to give someone like a 5-second sales pitch on her, who would you say she sounds like just in the vein of, not, I would expect our listeners to not be like, that didn't sound exactly like that artist, but do you have a wild idea of what type of music she sounds like?
I don't know. You've seen her. I took her to see you on your birthday. Don't you remember?
How could I forget? I would modern.
She's got a unique voice.
Yeah. Modern rockabilly. I'd say she's strongly influenced by Wanda Jackson. For sure.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. She definitely has a unique voice. It's definitely one of those voices that every time I hear one of her songs, I can definitely, just before 2 seconds in, I can tell that it's her.
Yeah. And we're saying unique voice in the most complimentary way, by the way. We're not saying like when someone says, you should meet my friend. He's got a great personality. We're saying it in a very complimentary way. And I do agree. It's one of those things where when you played her for me, that was the first thing where I was like, well, that's a unique voice, and I love when artists have something like that. So
yes.
Now I get to compliment GNR. That was one of the first things that drew me to GNR. Like one of the first GNR songs I heard, I was like, well, no one else sings like that. That is always a big attraction to me for new artists. So that is what we've been listening to. When you're hearing this episode, if you participated in Record Store Day, you more than likely have a bunch of new music that you are listening to that you picked up on Record Store Day. So in the second half of the episode, we are going to get into the Record Store Day as a whole, talk about our experiences with it, what we like about it, where we think it's going, and so on and so forth. So Record Store Day focused discussion coming up in the second half. You are listening to the Infectious Groove podcast on the Odd Pods Media Network. We'll be right back.
Hey, you there. We've got a question for you. Are you tired of clickbait stories and the loudest voices driving discussions in culture and entertainment?
If so, I'm Dylan.
I'm Kendall.
And I'm Corey. And we host the podcast From the Middle. We're middle-class guys living in the middle of America, in the middle chapters of our lives with points of view somewhere in the middle.
We take a more reasonable and centrist approach in our discussions covering genres like comedy, culture, entertainment, and interviews with really interesting folks like business owners, comic creators, doctors, news anchors, New York Times best-selling illustrators, professional stand-up comics, and more. We really value a relaxed and conversational podcast, one that we hope is so fun and laid back, you'll forget you're not actually hanging out with us.
So search at From the Mid Pod, just like it sounds, or check us out everywhere you can find podcasts.
Was A Quiet Place inspired by Signs, It Comes at Night, and War for the Planet of the Apes? Was Ready Player One influenced by Avatar, Wreck-It Ralph, and The Last Starfighter? Is The Hurricane Heist more influenced by Sharknado or Geostorm? These are the kinds of questions my guest co-hosts and I discuss on my podcast, Piecing It Together. Every week, we look at a new movie and try to figure out what other movies inspired it. Whether it's the story, the character development, tone, or even use of music. Every movie was influenced by something that came before, and we want to figure out what. Check out Piecing It Together on your favorite podcast app or check us out on piecingpod.com. You can also follow us on social media at piecingpod. Piecing It Together is a part of the All Points West podcast network.
We are back, and as always, in the second half of the episode, we try to do some sort of topic that we find interesting, that we think our perspective would be interesting on, and that our listeners will hopefully find interesting as well. And this particular topic is hot because by the time this episode comes out, the second of 2 Record Store Day drops will have occurred for 2021 in the middle of, because now it seems like there's a Record Store Day every other month, which we'll get into in a little bit. But the reason why I think it's so unique for the three of us to talk about this is, and I'm not being funny when I say this, Michelle, you've been to 1 or 2 physically, right? Like you've actually like gone to the Record Store Day or Record Store on Record Store Day at least once or twice, right?
Yeah, one time I stood in line, and one time I went after it opened just to pick up some stuff.
Right on. And then Kyle, you have yet to physically like go and be involved in Record Store Day at all, but you would have heard of it.
Yeah, I knew of it and what it was. I just ended up like there's a small record store in Ann Arbor, and I can't remember what the hell the name of it is, but I would always hear about it being in downtown or whatever and be like, oh yeah, that's cool, but I'm not going to stand in line. I just ended up never going.
Right. And that's the thing too, is like all things, like when Record Store Day started out, which by the way, I had to look this up to make sure I was right on this. The very first Record Store Day was April 20th, 2008. And I didn't even go to one until 2010. And it's one of those things where probably about 3 or 4 years after Record Store Day started is when you started getting the thing you're talking about, where it's like lines around the building by the time the place opens, then people getting in line the night before. And now, I mean, it's just insane. I know people who went to the Record Store Day that was in June that got to the local record store at 7 p.m. on the Friday night before, and they were already like the 4th or 5th people in line.
What the?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. And from what I'm told, the first one I went to was in 2010. And I got there, I want to say probably about 6 a.m, and nobody else even showed up till like 8, and they opened up at 8:30. And jeez, I don't know, within like 2 years, we were having to get there at like midnight, 11 p.m. And then I think one year we finally did get there at like 7 o'clock the night before. So in short, what I'm trying to say is I'm part of the problem, you know. But for me, my overall perception of it was like when I first got wind of, and there's a record store day. The reason why I heard about it is because around 2010 was when I started to get back into vinyl. And so you hang out enough, you know, on the internet, music forums and whatnot, and you're, you know, talking to other people about records, which back then a lot less people were talking about vinyl. And, you know, people were like, oh, did you know there's a record store day thing? Like it wasn't highly publicized. It wasn't anything anybody really heard about, but I was like, oh, you can go on this one day and get albums, you know, sweet. So for me, it was like, did someone make a holiday just for me? You know, like as soon as I heard about it, I was like, I can't believe that someone went and did this, you know. But for you, Michelle, what's been your perception of it the whole time? Because I would gonna assume that you probably heard about it through me in the first place, right?
Yeah, I feel like were you living here when you
I
went
think
for
so.
the first time?
Yeah, I'm reasonably sure.
So yeah, I heard about it from you.
And were you like, I can't believe someone made a day for him, or what was your perception?
I was like, well, that seems pretty awesome, and I don't know if you know this about me, but I don't stand in line.
Tell me more. I've never heard anything about this. Go on.
I don't believe in lines. So if there's a line involved, don't invite me. I don't see the point. I don't anything because of lines. Anyways, so when it got to that point.
And to be clear, hold on, just so everyone knows, like, you're not just being record store day snotty. You don't do Black Friday. Nope. I think if they offered a fast pass for a fast pass at a theme park, like if you could buy like one that makes you even faster than the fast pass, you would pay whatever they wanted to get that.
Yes. So, I went Black Friday shopping one time and I got all my stuff and then I went and saw the line was all the way to the back of the store and I put my stuff down exactly where I was standing and went back to my car.
Did you like throw elbows and stuff to get the stuff and then just put it down anyways?
I don't think so. I think it was just like Old Navy or something and I was just like, no, that's not, I'd rather just not stand in line and pay full price. So I do not stand in line. So that part of record store day is a big turnoff.
Yeah.
The whole line in general.
And honestly, and not to oversimplify it, but your first perception of record store day is just crowds, no thank you.
Yeah. And the first time that I went, we stood in line and it was miserable and I was very angry and it was really early in the morning, which I also do not believe in. That being said, though, I've gotten a lot of great vinyl from our store day. Like the outcome is great, but I've also
when other people do the work for you.
That's what I was going to say. I started to outsource my record store to other people. Then it's great because then I just get to benefit. So it's like that's how I like to enjoy my record store day.
When you're driving along and you see those signs on telephone poles that say like "I buy houses." Or whatever, you know, there's like one that's like, do you stand in lines? And it's just Michelle's cell phone number.
Yeah, I will pay someone to stand in line. That's not beneath me. I will pay a lot of money not to stand in line. I'll just put that out there.
Right on. All right. So if you're a listener of the show and you're local to Detroit, remember that there is Record Store Day Black Friday coming up. Peruse that list. Listen to some old episodes. Check out Michelle's Jammy Jams. Whatever's on there. If they are on the Record Store Day list, you stand to make some money by going getting paid to stand in line for Michelle. Kyle, having never been to a Record Store Day, and already having referenced, you know, the first thing you were just like crowds. No. What is your perception of it overall, though? Like, what do you think from the outside looking in, like on Record Store Day? What is your perception of it?
I'm also not, I'm not anti-line. I absolutely have, like, I've waited, not in a line, but I've waited for like Best Buy to open before to go and get an album that just came out.
Well, that, and you can't be as big of a fan of Starbucks as you are. and not be a fan of lines. So
yes, the one here is terrible, and I always have to wait in that line. So, like I said, I'm not anti-line, and I will do a line if I need to. But Record Store Day, I think is awesome overall. When we talked to those guys that did what Vinyl Nation is what it was called?
Yeah, absolutely.
They had a big part in that movie that focused on Record Store Day, and I was like, I learned a lot, and I was like, holy shit, like that's amazing that some guy just started this and was like, hey, we're going to do this, and took off and became like this huge thing.
Yeah, and such a thing that connects people in so many ways. And actually, I'm glad you brought that up. Here's something very interesting in meta about, and Michelle, this is going to be one of those moments where you're like weirded out by the fact that people listen to our show.
Still?
Yeah. I know. People are still listening. This last Record Store Day, the one in June, the Vinyl Nation documentary came out on Blu-ray, and it was released in a 12-inch album cover, so like it could go into your bins with your records, right? Mm-hmm. And it was extremely hard to come by. And one of our listeners sent me a screenshot of having the only place they could find it to order it was from Dearborn Music, which they heard about. Like they heard about the documentary on our show and heard about Dearborn Music on our show and ended up ordering the documentary from Dearborn Music because of our show.
That's awesome.
That is awesome.
Yeah, which I thought was awesome. And I wasn't even thinking about that. So I was glad that you brought that up because I thought that was a really, really cool thing. So overall, though, Michelle, you're anti-line. Kyle, you don't mind a line. But overall, your perception of it is just, hey, this is a good thing for people to be brought together in support of local business.
I think it's resisted becoming like some sort of like corporate grab bag this long. So I feel like it's still going to be that way where like artists are releasing like special things that you can only get on that day. And they're like limited pressings and hard to get and that kind of thing. And just making it so it's like a reason to show up and wait in a line.
Right. And that's the thing. There's trouble a brewing in the vinyl community because you have places like Target and Wal-Mart and all these people releasing exclusive vinyl color variants only for their location. Or for example, the latest Justin Bieber record, if you buy it at Walmart on vinyl, it has one color for the cover and a bonus track. But if you buy it at Target on vinyl, it's got a different color cover and a different bonus track. And a lot of vinyl enthusiasts and record store enthusiasts are pointing to that and saying, okay, well, that takes away like the specialty of like those could have been Record Store Day pieces.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and Target's like obsessed with the variant colors and stuff. Like if you go there right now, every record they have on the shelf is a Target exclusive that is some different color than whatever you can buy at Best Buy or Walmart or whatever.
Right. That's one thing that is when we get into the next question I have overall is like how your perception has changed. There's two big things that for me my perception has changed on over the years. And one, Kyle, you touched on a little bit too with like the corporate side of things. It seemed like probably about 4 or 5 years ago, record labels really got involved. And Michelle, I think you would remember this and hopefully our listeners will believe this because it's true. But I was complaining a whole lot about Record Store Day to anybody anybody that would listen. And I want to be clear before I say what I'm about to say. I don't have a problem with these particular artists, but it went from what you were talking about, Kyle, where like, hey, these are tracks you can only get on this day from the record store, or this album has never been on vinyl before, so it's only going to be available at the record store on this day, to all of a sudden it was like, here's some Katy Perry picture discs, or like, here's a Justin Bieber record that's already readily available on vinyl, but we're going to give it a different cover. And like things to where things like that started to invade the list where, and again, I can't stress enough, I don't have an issue with those artists, but it was like the record label was like, well, what if we make this just different enough to where we can sell it to a bunch of people that aren't really that passionate about music, that are just collecting like pieces, right? And so for me, some of the soul of it got lost there.
Yeah, I also think it's annoying when they have just Record Store Day firsts.
Yeah.
I don't know if that is annoying to you. Like, I don't care about that. Like, I'm not going to stand in line or have someone stand in line for me to get a record that I could just readily get in another month or so. Like that is just pointless to me. I feel like that clutters up the list, and I feel like it's just to be like, look, you can get this first, and look how popular this artist is, but you're not doing anything exclusive.
Right.
I will say too, like Record Store Day probably doesn't mean anything to anyone who doesn't collect or like records, because before I got into records, I was like, oh, first time pressed on vinyl, like, cool story, who gives a shit?
Right, yeah.
But now I'm like, holy shit, like, that's amazing. Like, it's the first time it's ever been on vinyl. I'm going to fucking get it. Like, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So it's very much about, like, whether it's hard to appreciate something unless you are part of that community to begin with.
No, and I get that. And I want to say probably about, and let me make clear that on the list now, there's always a handful of CDs and even some cassettes and whatnot. So they're trying to branch out some, but I would submit that your point, Kyle, goes across the board. Like, if you're not buying music on vinyl these days, you're probably not buying music. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know anybody who's a CD enthusiast that would, you know what I mean, that wouldn't buy vinyl. And they have tried to do that over the years. So that kind of leads us into the next point. And I feel like, Michelle, one of your things that you would change about Record Store Day, certainly what you don't like or what you would change, is you would just do away with the idea of firsts altogether.
Yeah, for sure. I don't get it. Maybe I'm just, I can wait it out for the actual record to come out. But I feel like when you're there at the Record Store Day, when you experience it and you're at this wall of just records, like, I want to know what I need to get right now. Like, what is limited number? What is the exclusives? What is just, a special release? And everything else can just be set aside for later,
Right. I'm kind of on the fence about firsts because I'm always in line, because I'm always there. I just grab, what it is that I want, whether it's a first or not. But I have very much been confused in the past, like with budget limitations. You know what I mean? Like, get to the register and be like, oh, well, now I got to look up and see which of these I can wait on,
Yeah, see?
Yeah.
I don't see the point of it. Are people just doing it to be included in Record Store Day? Then, like, why don't you release something that's exclusive? Like, I don't.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Kyle, do you know, and an honest question, do you know what it is we're referring to, like with the whole firsts thing? Because I don't know how much experience you have with looking at the lists. Like, there's regular Record Store Day releases, which by and large are limited. They're not necessarily available just on that day, but they're released in limited quantities. But then there's this other category called Record Store Day First. Are you familiar with it?
No.
Okay, so, and when I explain this, you're going to be like, yeah, Michelle's right, that's dumb. So let me give you an example of the first thing that I ever encountered as a Record Store Day First. And I want to say this was in 2010 when I went to the first one. I went that year to get, there was an Ozzy live album that was only available that day and has never been available since. And then there was a Foo Fighters record called Medium Rare, which was like a collection of mostly covers and B-sides that hasn't been available ever again since then. But then also on the list was Paul Simon's Graceland, which in the time since has become a readily available pressing. I'd be surprised if Target doesn't have a color variant on the way soon. But at the time, that record was released in 86 and it was a hit, but it wasn't like a huge thing. Like, a lot of people bought the 7-inch singles for, like, You Can Call Me Al, right? So a lot of, like, there wasn't a lot of copies. It wasn't Thriller. Let me put it that way. Like, there wasn't a ton of used copies in circulation. So for people like me, I saw Graceland on the Record Store Day list and I was like, holy shit, I got to have that. And then I found out it was a Record Store Day First, which, by way of a long story, Kyle, means that they put out like 8,000 on Record Store Day, and then like 60 days later, it's available to the general public.
Yeah, I get that is dumb. It's almost like getting your first access to concert tickets or something because you are a part of, like, whatever, you have an Amex or something.
That's damn near exactly what it is. Yep.
Yeah, I think that is dumb.
I could see it being some virtue to it if there was, or value to it rather, not virtue, but like if the Record Store Day First version had, gold foil lettering on the front, or like some difference between that and the other one. But like Michelle's saying, she ain't waiting in line for shit. So, she can wait 60 days. But to be honest, I think that's a marketing ploy for people like me directly that are like, no, I have to have it on vinyl right now.
So is there ever a case when the Record Store Day Firsts are different?
That's a wide question. That casts a wide, or I'm sorry, that question casts a wide net. Not that I'm aware of. I'm certain this is a feedback moment for our listeners, like, to be like, nope, this one thing that I bought, but I don't believe so. I think everything that's been Record Store Day First is just exclusive for that day, and then in another 60 days or whatever else it comes out as a full regular release. But by all means, our listeners, feel free to comment on Facebook or call the hotline and let us know if you know of one.
Like, let me just put it this way. We waited, over a year for that Paleo record. And if they had said, it'll come out 2 months earlier if you go to Record Store Day and get it, I still would wait the extra 2 months. Like, I'm just not waiting in line. It's not worth it. Like, if you had went, Russ, and you're like, hey, they have a whole bunch, I have an extra one, do you want me to pick it up? Of course I'm not going to say no, but it would not be worth any of my time or energy to and I waited so long, and that record is so good that I just can't find it worth it.
Yeah, well, we already covered that there's no shame in you having other people wait in line for you. So,
But I wouldn't send you. I would not send you
to
the store
hey,
to pick up.
Hey, everybody. Did you hear that? Michelle's not going to send me to do errands for her.
only for exclusives, yes.
So nice of you. Was that your nice thing for the year?
For the day.
For the day. Nice. Kyle, from, your experience with knowing what you know about Record Store Day, outside of just having learned to like about that, or if that would be on your list, is there anything you can think that you would change about Record Store Day, or maybe something that would get you more involved, or are you cool with it trucking along how it is? What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I guess as long as corporate entities stay out of it for the most part, I think that it will continue to be as good as it is now. Like, if for some reason, I don't know, by the chance, if like Target or Walmart or Meijer or someone is allowed to participate in Record Store Day and they get exclusive releases that only belong in, mom and pop record shops, then I would say that that's going in the wrong direction.
See, and that's what a lot of people feel. Like me personally, I don't have any problem with Target and Walmart getting in the vinyl game. We actually have a YouTube video coming out soon about how I think the vinyl community as a whole should calm down about Target and Walmart being in the game. But then I see things like that Justin Bieber release, and I'm like, oh, well, wait a minute. Now we're inching. Like, now not only is it taken out of Record Store Day, but it's just put out in the mass where like something like that could have been used for a Record Store Day piece. You know what I mean? So things like that do concern me already, because here's my thing, and this kind of leads us into like the more or less the last point I want to discuss, which is like what you guys think the future of Record Store Day is going to be like. That's my concern, is that Pink Floyd barely recorded any concerts through their career. There's only so much Metallica live stuff out there. There's only so much, whomever, pick your artist, Tom Petty, whoever. There's, in the grand scheme of things, there's a finite amount of releases before we get to, like you said, Kyle, like the record label getting involved and being like, I don't know, let's shine this piece of crap up that sounds really bad, and and we'll just call it a Record Store Day release, right? So, like, what are your concerns for the future of Record Store Day? Is that your major concern, that this is going to just become record labels being like, I don't know, maybe this is a Record Store Day piece, and just taking all the goodness out of it?
I do worry about that because of the resurgence of how popular vinyl is now, that they really have no choice besides to try and start doing grab bag stuff, because it's what everyone's buying. In order for them to stay relevant and sell actual records and it not be all about digital and streaming, they are going to have to, I think, do something, which I don't want them to do something, but I don't see that. I don't see how it's unavoidable.
Because of exactly that reason, like there only being so many, you know what I mean? Like when you look back at how many times the Record Store Day list says, hey, first time ever on vinyl, like you referenced earlier, Kyle, like there's only so many albums in people's catalogs, right?
Right.
Where like,
and I'm a huge sucker for exclusivity, and like, so that's what draws me to Record Store Day, is like that you can only get, there's only 1,000 of these pressed, and you can only get it on this day, and that, if you don't buy it now, you're going to be paying $500 for it in 6 months. That to me is the awesome part about it.
Yeah, and it's funny that you mentioned the exclusivity part, because in June, the only piece that I wanted from Record Store Day for that day was a acoustic Prince album. And I have Record Store Day pieces from when the runs for Record Store Day were like 500, 1,000, 1,500 copies. They made 15,000 copies of that Prince acoustic record and had the nerve to call it, an exclusive Record Store Day piece. And the last Record Store Day fell on my birthday. And I had some friends that were like, oh, are we going to have to go like early on your birthday for the thing? And I was like, no, I'm interested in one piece, and I will be able to casually stroll into the Record Store Day like 3 days later and still get that. There's like no draw for me, no urgency for me to go to the record store on that day.
Was that a bum out for you? Like, did you want it to be more exclusive? Does that mean more? Or are you just happy to get it?
No, I mean, yeah, it's a double-edged thing, right? It's like, in a way, it's like I'm totally the same way Kyle is. Like, I'm a sucker for that. Like, oh, they only made, 500 of these and I have one. Like, there's a coolness with that. Like, I don't ever plan to resell. Like, I'm the furthest thing from a flipper. So I'm not like, oh, it's going to be worth a lot more. But it is neat to know that, like, for example, I have a live album by Fun from the Some Nights tour that was a Record Store Day piece, and they only made 500 of them. For the tens of millions of copies that Some Nights sold, there's only 500 copies of this live album in the world, and I have one of them. I think that's awesome. But then on the other hand, I don't want to pay flippers prices to get a Prince acoustic album that I've loved for the 20 years that it's been available on digital, because some other guy got in line before me and then put it on eBay. So it's a double-edged sword. Where do you think the future of Record Store Day is going, Michelle? I mean, obviously it's going there without you, but because again, you even though you have only been to a couple, like we talked about, like, but you've seen the evolution of it. If nothing else, like through my eyes, like what's your perception? Where do you think it's going? Is that your same concern? Do you think it's going to become mostly a corporate thing?
I can almost guarantee that at some point it's going to be a corporate thing. I feel like there's already, 2 or 3 a year?
Okay, so there were 2 a year. About 5 years back, they started doing Record Store Day Black Friday. So they always had one in April, and then they added one for Black Friday, which I don't protest. That's fine. But then last summer, because of COVID and social distancing, they split Record Store Day up into 3 days. And the idea being we'll have the 3 crowds be 3 smaller crowds instead of 3 huge crowds. But when they did it last year, it was Record Store Day in July, August, and September. And then there was like a 3-week break. And then you had the one in November. So there was 4 last year. But it was really one spread over 3. And then the one in November. And then this year, because, restrictions are lifted here and there, and we're getting a little more free in the vaccinations and so on, they split the one day up into 2. So it was June and July. And then we won't have another one till November.
So do you think that next year it'll just go back to the 2?
I hope so. Because for me, the whole point, yes, it's awesome that I get these exclusives. And like Kyle said, oh, this is the first time this has been on vinyl, where like that went from totally irrelevant to Kyle to being something that he cares about now, right? Which is awesome. Like that's a product of vinyl growing and the community growing and Record Store Day growing. But one big focus of it is for people to find the record store, to frequent the record store. For the people who have maybe got into vinyl from Target are now going, oh crap, I should go here, right? And like, not only do they have these exclusives, but look at all this other music stuff that they have here that you would never find at a place like Target. So I hope it goes back to one big one, because for me, there is a hell of a lot more excitement in that big crowd experience. And I think you're apt to run into less of like the music snob, vinyl snob. You're going to run into more people like you who are newer to the record store on that one event, I feel like, than if it's spread out.
I could see that.
But basically, all 3 of us, our fear is that it's going to pretty much become a corporate thing where it's all exactly that. Like Kyle, I'm not being funny when I say this. You have put the fear of God into me, because I did not even cross my mind that by this time next year, Target and Walmart could be like, celebrate Record Store Day with our exclusives on this day. Like, yep. Oh shit. I was going along having a fun night. And then you said that. Now I seriously am really worried that that's going to happen. Because even if they don't call it Record Store Day, right? Like, what if a mass retailer is like, hey, on April 20th, come here to get your exclusive vinyl. Like, it's going to be them directly competing with the mom and pop record store days on that day.
Or think about if Amazon started to try to do it, where if they. It would be so. What if they opened up an online queue where you went on a certain page on Amazon and you had to wait in line to be able to, like they do for shoes right now?
God damn it, Kyle!
If that shit happens, that would be terrible.
Kyle, do you have any other bad news or anything else you'd like to share? Like birthday parties? Do you want to share? Like, how are birthday parties going to be wrecked going forward, Kyle?
I mean, Jeff Bezos is trying to take over the world, man. So there's no way that has not crossed him or somebody else's mind at Amazon.
Damn it. All right. Well, I like to end our episodes on a fun and positive note, but Kyle has ruined that. No, in all seriousness, I do want to wrap this up. But Michelle, like, did that ever cross your mind before Kyle brought that up?
I mean, I've just been waiting for the shoe to drop.
Yeah. Waiting in some form for this to be screwed up. Like, you know, and like Kyle said, Amazon. What if Amazon did like the Cyber Monday version of their record store day, right? Like, oh, don't mess with the record store day on Saturday because on Monday we're going to have the real deal.
Yeah, and then like you would hope that everyone would still support the local record store and that it would bomb and that, you know, they would only do it one time and then it would go back to record stores. But, you know, that's not going to happen. The record labels are going to share their exclusive ones with Walmart instead of Dearborn Music, and that's where they're going to make the most money. And so I hope it doesn't happen, but I would not be shocked if it happened like by the end of the year.
All right. Well, this was a fun discussion until about 10 minutes ago. No, but I can't stress enough, Kyle, as fearful of what you're saying makes me fearful. It's an excellent point, and I think it's definitely one that warrants discussion. So we always say we have our social media, we have our hotline, 313-364-9899. If you have thoughts on Record Store Day in general, maybe tell us some of your favorite pieces that you've got, or you know, unfortunately, some stuff you might have missed out on. If you were like Michelle and you said, no, I'm not going to wait in line for that, and now you go, oh man, I really wish I would have waited in line to get that record. Any sort of Record Store Day memories or opinions you want to share with us, but for me personally, I would really love to get everybody's opinion on that. Do you think we're going to come to a point where mass retail and or Amazon are going to pull their own version of this and possibly ruin it, which the main focus being go see that local business? You know, how long until those mass retailers and the online retailers try to start chip away at that? So please, by all means, make sure that you get involved in that discussion, because by the time we do another episode, I think we're going to have a bunch of feedback to share from the Kings of Leon album review and this Record Store Day episode. And then, having said that, when we do our next episode, we will rotate around to Kyle for our album review. So he will have something for us, which I'm just going to go and throw it out there again and say it's going to be diverse, because I can't really lose there. No matter what it is, I can be like, oh, that's diverse. So, you know, so Kyle will have a pick for us to do a album review. The week after that, we will have another random group discussion topic. After that will come up my album review. And then when we circle back to album reviews after that, all of the listeners are inching closer to the very first time that our listeners get to pick an album for us to review and for you to be mad about Michelle's rating of it for the following 7 days to several months. So we greatly appreciate everybody taking the time to listen to the show. Like we always say about this time, without music, life would be a mistake. Bye.
Bye.
The Infectious Groove podcast is hosted by Russ Robinson, Kyle Wimple, and Michelle Koselecki. Produced and edited by Russ Robinson. Intro and outro music composed by Chris Kimmel. Opening credits read by Stacey Robinson. Recorded with a Rode Podcaster Pro and Rode Pod mics.